With Session Update, I'm Julie Bartke. One of the hot button topics surfacing this session is that of silica sand mining, also known as frack mining. It's a procedure that's been around for decades, and oversight traditionally has been left up to local governments. But that could change. The Senate Environment and Energy Committee heard the issue today. We'd like to show you a portion of that committee meeting.
We were asking for a generic environmental impact statement to address a number of unanswered questions that have been identified in the last year through the Environmental Quality Board. Those questions pertain to cumulative water impacts, ambient air quality, and just the effect of transportation increases in truck traffic on our region in southeastern and south central Minnesota. So we're calling for a GEIS in this bill. We're also calling for the formation of a joint powers board. It would be known as the Southern Minnesota Silica Sand Board, and this is a way of bringing together around the same table state agency expertise and local decision makers.
On this map I show where my house is. It's not on the website map, but I'm actually about a third of a mile through the bluff from the mine that's blasting. They started blasting in July of 2011, twice a day, 4 to 5 days a week. You could just about set your clock on it. My neighbor's window was broken after one of the blasts, and they took a respite now, but they're ready to start blasting again in April. They're down into the aquifer. They were converted, they had been operating for stone panels, and they're now mining for frac sand at a different depth level than what they were mining before. In the city, the two washing operations, one of them was grandfathered in. This mine was also grandfathered in. The mine has never had any environmental reviews. There's no permits on file with the city. One of the washing operations that was grandfathered in is conveniently located on a floodplain, which actually beyond the floodplain in 2007, we had serious flooding, loss of homes, and property damage. That mine has never had any environmental reviews. So what happens when, without a moratorium, more industries will come in, and you end up having some operating under these regulations, some under a little bit more strict, and then when our city moratorium goes off in March, we will have more apply, and then if the state comes in with some information that we can use in the permitting process, we'll have a different level. Causes a lot of confusion and a lot of issues.
There's been some talk about whether there's a state standard to protect groundwater. The budget people here will hear about the Minnesota Geologic Survey and what the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources does with that information. The area in these counties is the most studied area in the state of Minnesota, and if they need more money to do more studies, I would suggest that you give it to them. But it's very clear that there is information on this part of the state, and the DNR is very used to dealing with water appropriations. There are ethanol facilities, there are golf courses, there are ag facilities, there are holes in the ground that are being dewatered today. There's nothing different between our holes in the ground and the holes in the ground that are in other places of the state regarding water protection. There are standards. The trouble is that they're amorphous because groundwater is a little bit hard to predict. It's local. It depends on the geology of the area. There isn't a state model because geology isn't a state issue. Geology is local, water tables are local, and the DNR has been doing this work for a long time. If they don't have enough staff, I hope you'll give them the staff to do that work.
I just want to say that I think the department's going through the biofuels permitting and regulations that we have out in greater Minnesota, going through the feedlot regulations. I believe and I trust the department's ability to regulate this industry and move it forward without any more moratoriums and any more study. I think the rules and the laws and regulations are in place, and I think we should let them do their job.
And this bill is intended to start a conversation. It's certainly not perfect. I don't think any bill of this size could be with such a complex issue. And it's no doubt going to take some revision, and I do hope that the committee process improves this bill. But again, this gets the conversation started. This is a conversation that has been sorely lacking at the state level, and I'm glad to bring it to St. Paul. As you've seen, I've met with local leaders and concerned citizens, agency expertise, my colleagues here in St. Paul. any stakeholder who would like to talk, including industry, a lot of familiar faces here today. I want to continue those conversations so that we can get this right. I'd just like to add, this is not a typical example in my mind of environmental or concerns versus economic development. In southeastern Minnesota in particular, tourism and quality of life drive local economies. We have a lot of folks who move to this region because of the quality of life. And as silica sand mining increases in the years to come, we just have to make sure that we're prepared for it.
The bill did pass out of the Senate Energy Committee by a vote of 8-4.